Hi, this is Mr. Goldberg, and welcome back for another presentation, this time on 8.3 Market Research and Marketing Strategies, of course, for the International Business class, International Business Fundamentals class. Let's get started. So, marketing research or market research, what is it? Well, it's finding and collecting information needed to successfully sell a product or service and make marketing decisions. And that's anywhere, of course. Market research can be used in many different ways, including better understanding your customers and preferences, 4 P's and 2 C's, identifying growth and profit opportunities, detecting changes in the trends in the marketplace, observing the competition, so sort of doing a little scouting action, spying action, perhaps. Maybe not spying. Well, that's legal, of course. And internationally, research can be used to look at differences between markets, culture, language, government regulations, and so on. When doing research, market research, and any kind of research, you have 2 methods primarily, primary versus secondary research. So first we'll look at primary research. So primary research is collecting data, and it says the company could be a nonprofit organization, could be you yourself doing it for a project or some other research purpose. So collecting data yourself or hiring a market research firm to do it. Individuals usually wouldn't do this, but companies definitely do. So how companies do primary research? Well, they do surveys, they can do questionnaires, which are slightly different than surveys, observations, focus groups, and focus groups are when you get a small number of people together, usually 8 to 12 people with variations, and you ask them targeted questions. You might get them to try out a product or service and then see their reaction. Meanwhile, these people in these focus groups, which if you do one yourself, it's actually nice because you spend a little time, you might get some information on a new product and they pay you for it. But there's usually a big mirror on one of the walls, and there's people behind that mirror watching your every move. It's kind of interesting. Could also just be done through interviews. All right, some advantages of primary research is you get information directly related to your product or service. It's very targeted, and you can specify your particular customers as well when you do this. Some disadvantages of primary research: it's incredibly expensive to conduct your own research. Also takes a bit of time, so it's very time consuming. So when entering a new market, so looking at the international realm, it's suggested that you hire a local market research firm that would understand the cultural differences and nuances of the market, so they have local knowledge and can get you better results. Okay, on to the second type, secondary research. So secondary research is doing research from data that's already been collected from other sources and can be looked up in many different ways. Advantages of secondary: of course, it's very easily available, very readily available, far cheaper than primary research. Disadvantages: the data is, of course, more generic and may not be specific to your company's situation or your organization's situation or your own personal situation. There are many, many, many sources of secondary research, and I'll give you a few. So the Canadian government provides exporting and country data on many websites, such as, and we've used these in class. I won't click on the links in this video. We've seen it already. So Global Affairs Canada, Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada, Export Development Canada, and lately the EDC site's been a little more subscription oriented. They're not as free with their information as they were even a year ago. This is 2023 as I'm recording this. The Canadian International Trade Tribunals and other sources. Other sources of international information can be found at non-government websites, such as the OECD site, which has a phenomenal amount of information. You can spend hours diving into their country comparative data. There's so much in there, and many, many different topics. You can also get it from trade organizations. So if you know you are a part of a specific trade organization, there will be lots of data within those organizations. It helps if you're a member, so you have more access to that information. And then individual country websites. So if you're focusing on one particular country, go to that country's website and have a look and see what information they have there. And again, there's many, many others as well. Okay, let's get into some international marketing strategy. So we'll start with acquisition. So acquisition is a fancy word for when one company purchases another. Acquisition's a fancy word for buying, basically. So purchases another country, and then in the international realm, we're talking about doing this in another country. So advantages of acquisition: the employee's management, reputation, and cultural expertise are purchased within the company. So you get the whole package. You don't have to do research on what's going on in this country. You've got the people there already. There's fewer cultural blunders and mistakes. And a great example is, and it's a little old, but still valid, in 1993, Coca-Cola purchased / acquired the Thumbs Up brand, which was the #1 cola sold in India. And there's a picture of it over on the side there. Okay, another strategy besides acquisition is the centralized marketing strategy. So this occurs when a company uses the domestic marketing mix throughout the world. So advantages of centralization: you have cost savings because you're basically doing the same thing everywhere. You have the opportunity to build a global brand. The disadvantage is cultural mistakes are often made. So in this example, you see Starbucks, they've changed the language, but my guess is pretty well the same or similar product offerings are in there. The look is the same. So that's the idea there. And yeah, so Starbucks pretty well uses that same strategy throughout the world, as you can see in the picture, which I just mentioned. All right, another strategy is the decentralized strategy. So decentralized means you do your marketing, but you tailor it to a particular country. You don't do the same thing everywhere. And sometimes you do local variations within the country, as we'll see shortly. So the parent company often hires local advertising agencies, marketing research firms, and sales representatives to find out what's going on in that particular country. So the example is McDonald's sells Big Macs throughout the world. That's the centralized part, but they also include lots of local varieties and variation. So the example that even us here in Ontario are usually not familiar with, unless we've traveled, is the McLobster, which is readily available in the Maritimes and New England in the United States, the Maritimes in Canada. So that's the decentralized part of their strategy. And I'm not sure, it may just be a summertime thing or spring, summer. It may not be all year, but that I'm not 100% sure. But it does exist, and it's actual, and it says in the ad, 100% Atlantic lobster. Yummy if you eat that. Okay, on to the questions. What is marketing research? What are the advantages and disadvantages of primary research? What are the advantages and disadvantages of secondary research? Why would a company need a marketing strategy? Oh my goodness, you should know that by now. Define acquisition strategy and give an example, other than the one that you were given here, of course. Define centralized marketing strategy and give an example of that. And define decentralized marketing strategy and give an example of that. This has been Mr. Goldberg from Martin Grove Collegiate and the Toronto District School Board. I hope you enjoyed the talk. Have a good one.